Maya Chen walked through the front doors of Jefferson High School like any other 17-year-old girl starting her senior year. Her backpack hung casually over one shoulder, filled with notebooks and pencils instead of plasma charges and field rations. The biggest difference was that 3 months ago she had been commanding a squadron of human fighters against the Zephyrian Empire in the Outer Rim territories. The war had ended when Maya was still 16. Earth's children had grown up faster than anyone expected when the aliens came. While adults struggled with the reality of interstellar conflict, teenagers adapted with the frightening efficiency that only youth could manage. Maya had volunteered for the Youth Corps at 14, became a pilot at 15, and earned her command stripes before her 16th birthday. She had led successful raids against Zephyrian supply lines and defended human colonies across 3 star systems. Now she stood in a hallway that smelled like cleaning supplies and teenage anxiety, watching her classmates worry about pop quizzes and lunch money. The contrast felt surreal. Yesterday she had been debriefed by Earth Defense Command. Today she needed to remember her locker combination. Maya, girl, where have you been? Jessica Martinez appeared beside her, bouncing with excitement. You totally disappeared after sophomore year. My mom said your family moved for some government thing? Maya smiled carefully. The official story was that her father worked for a classified defense contractor. It wasn't entirely false. Yeah, we moved around a lot. Dad's work. Well, you're back now and that's what matters. Wait until you see what they've done to the cafeteria. And oh my God, the drama with Brad and Stephanie. Jessica launched into a detailed account of 2 years' worth of high school gossip. Maya nodded and made appropriate sounds, but her mind wandered. In the Kepler system, she had once held a dying colonist in her arms, while Zephyrian fighters screamed overhead. The woman had been maybe 25, with children waiting for her back on Earth. Maya had promised to get word to her family, a promise she had kept even though regulations said personal communications were restricted. Are you listening? Jessica nudged her. I said Mr. Henderson is still teaching chemistry, and he's just as boring as ever. Sorry. Just thinking about everything I need to catch up on. The warning bell rang, and students began moving toward their first period classes. Maya checked her schedule. Advanced Physics with Dr. Williams. She had specifically requested the most challenging courses available. After calculating hyperspace jump coordinates under enemy fire, she figured high school physics would be manageable. Dr. Williams was a thin man with graying hair who clearly loved his subject. Welcome back, everyone. This year we'll be exploring quantum mechanics, relativity, and some theoretical applications that might seem like science. Fiction. Maya almost laughed. Dr. Williams had no idea that half the theoretical concepts he would teach were standard knowledge for any spaceborne human. Faster-than-light travel wasn't theoretical when you had personally piloted ships through hyperspace corridors. Miss Chen, Dr. Williams called, noticing her expression. Something amusing about quantum entanglement? No, sir. Just excited to learn. The class covered basic wave-particle duality, concepts Maya had mastered years ago when learning to operate quantum sensors on reconnaissance missions. She took notes anyway, playing the part of a normal student returning to normal life. During lunch, Maya sat with Jessica and her friend group. They discussed weekend plans, college applications, and which boys were cute this year. Maya found herself studying their faces, these peers who had spent the war years worried about homework assignments, while she had been learning to kill efficiently and command others in life-or-death situations. Earth to Maya. Jessica waved a hand in front of her face. You keep spacing out. Are you okay? Just adjusting to being back. Where exactly did you guys move? Asked Derek, one of Jessica's friends. You're like super tan. Was it somewhere tropical? Maya's tan came from the artificial lighting on military vessels and the radiation of foreign suns. We traveled a lot. Different climates. After school, Maya walked home through suburban streets lined with oak trees and tidy houses. Everything looked exactly as she remembered from her childhood before the war. Before she had learned that humans were not alone in the universe and that some of their neighbors were hostile. Her parents were waiting in the kitchen, still adjusting to civilian life themselves. Her father had been a logistics coordinator for the war effort. Her mother, a communications specialist. They looked older than their years, carrying the weight of secrets that couldn't be shared. How was your first day, sweetheart? Her mother asked. Weird, Maya answered honestly. They have no idea what happened out there. What we did. That's the point, her father said gently. The war is classified at the highest levels. These kids get to grow up normal because of what you and others sacrificed. Maya understood the logic, but understanding didn't make it easier. She had friends buried on a dozen different worlds, had made decisions that saved thousands of lives and cost hundreds of others. Now she was expected to care about homecoming dances and SAT scores. That night, Maya lay in her childhood bedroom, staring at glow-in-the-dark stars she had stuck to the ceiling when she was 12. Back then, those plastic stars had represented dreams of exploration and adventure. She had gotten both, along with a lot of things she hadn't dreamed of. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Movie night Friday. We're thinking that new rom-com with Jake Brennan." Maya stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "Sounds great." She wondered if she would ever truly fit back into this world, or if she would spend the rest of her life pretending to be normal, while carrying the weight of experiences no one around her could understand. The girl who had commanded starship squadrons and held dying colonists was expected to disappear, replaced by a teenager worried about prom themes and college majors. Outside her window, the night sky looked peaceful and empty. Maya knew better. She knew exactly what was out there in the darkness between the stars, and she knew that humanity's survival had required children like her to grow up too fast and fight too hard. Tomorrow she would go back to Jefferson High School and pretend to be normal. But tonight she allowed herself to remember who she really was. 2 weeks into the school year, Maya had settled into an uncomfortable routine of pretending. She aced every test without studying, completed homework assignments that seemed laughably simple, and sat through classes discussing concepts she could teach better than most of the instructors. The hardest part wasn't the academic work. It was remembering to act like she found it challenging. During advanced biology, Mrs. Patterson was explaining basic genetics when she mentioned recent theoretical work on genetic adaptation in extreme environments. Maya's hand went up before she could stop herself. "Actually, Mrs. Patterson, there have been some interesting developments in that field. Humans show remarkable genetic flexibility when exposed to different atmospheric conditions and gravity levels. The adaptation rate is much faster than traditional evolutionary models predicted." The classroom fell silent. Mrs. Patterson looked puzzled. "That's very specific, Maya. Where did you read about that?" Maya's mind raced. The information came from classified medical reports on human colonists adapting to alien worlds during the war. "I read a lot of science journals online. My dad brings home interesting articles sometimes." It was a close call, and Maya realized she needed to be more careful. Her knowledge base was far beyond what any civilian teenager should possess. At lunch, the conversation turned to current events when Derek mentioned seeing news about increased military spending. "My dad says it's all about space defense now," Derek said, munching on his sandwich, "like they're preparing for something big." "That's stupid," replied Stephanie Walsh, the popular girl who seemed to have opinions about everything. "Space is empty. It's just politicians wasting money on fancy toys." Maya felt her jaw clench. Space wasn't empty. She had personally seen the aftermath of Zephyrian attacks on mining stations, had pulled survivors from the wreckage of transport ships. Empty space was full of threats that these kids couldn't imagine. "Maybe they know something we don't," Maya said carefully. "Like what?" "Little green men." Stephanie laughed and several others joined in. "Come on, Maya, you're too smart to believe in alien conspiracies." Maya stared at her lunch tray, thinking about Commander Reeves, who had died when a Zephyrian battlecruiser targeted his ship's bridge. Reeves had been 23 years old, just 6 years older than Maya was now. He had saved her life twice during the Battle of Centauri Station. "You never know," she said quietly. After school, Maya found herself walking past the local military recruitment office. The Marine recruiter, Sergeant Rodriguez, was outside talking to a group of seniors about college programs and career opportunities. Maya recognized the type immediately. A combat veteran trying to adjust to peacetime duty, selling military service to kids who had no idea what real warfare looked like. "Miss, you interested in hearing about opportunities in the Marine Corps?" Rodriguez called to her. Maya approached, curious to see how much he actually knew. "What kind of opportunities?" "Leadership training, advanced technology experience, chance to serve your country. We're always looking for smart young people who want to make a difference." "What about space service?" Maya asked innocently. Rodriguez's expression flickered slightly. "That's classified operations. Mostly theoretical at this point," Maya nodded. "Theoretical, right. She wondered if Rodriguez had any idea that teenagers just like these high school seniors had been fighting and dying in space for the past 3 years. Probably not. The compartmentalization of information was nearly perfect. That evening, Maya's parents had news. Her father had been reassigned to a desk job with the Department of Defense, a reward for his service that felt more like exile. They would be staying in their hometown permanently now. It's better this way, her mother said, though she didn't sound convinced. You can finish high school normally, go to college, have the life we always wanted for you. Maya understood what they weren't saying. The war was over, but the military apparatus built to fight it remained. There would be other conflicts, other threats, and the temptation to use experienced personnel like Maya would always exist. Keeping her in civilian life was as much about protecting her from that temptation as it was about giving her a normal adolescence. What if I don't want normal? Maya asked. Her parents exchanged looks. You've given enough, her father said firmly. More than enough. Let someone else carry that burden now. Later that night, Maya was doing calculus homework when her secure communicator chirped softly from its hiding place in her desk drawer. The device was supposed to be returned to Earth Defense Command, but somehow it had ended up in her possession when she was discharged. The message was brief and coded, but Maya understood it immediately. Lieutenant Commander Santos, her former squadron mate, was reaching out. Maya hesitated for a long moment before responding with an equally brief acknowledgement. Within minutes, her computer displayed an encrypted video call request. Maya looked around her bedroom, stuffed animals from childhood sitting next to military commendations she couldn't display, and accepted the call. Santos appeared on screen, looking older than his 19 years. Behind him, Maya could see the interior of a military facility. Chen, good to see you're still alive and boring. Santos, still ugly, I see. Where are you? Can't say. Let's just call it an extended vacation courtesy of Earth Defense Command. How's civilian life treating you? Maya glanced around her room again. Like wearing shoes that don't fit, you? Same. Listen, I can't talk long, but I wanted you to know some of the old crew are staying active. Consulting work, they call it. If you ever get tired of pretending to be a regular teenager. I can't, Maya said quickly. My parents, I get it. But Chen, you were the best squadron leader any of us ever served under. That doesn't just disappear because you're sitting in high school classrooms. After Santos disconnected, Maya sat staring at her reflection in the blank computer screen. She looked like any other high school senior. Young, uncertain, dealing with typical teenage concerns. But she knew Santos was right. The skills, the instincts, the absolute certainty she had felt when making split-second decisions that meant life or death for her squadron, none of that had disappeared. She picked up her calculus homework again, but the equations seemed trivial after calculating hyperspace navigation coordinates under combat conditions. Maya realized that no matter how hard she tried to fit back into civilian life, part of her would always be the war veteran who had commanded others in battle before she was old enough to vote. The question was whether she could learn to live with that division, or whether it would eventually tear her apart. The first real test came during a fire drill 3 weeks into the semester. Maya was sitting in world history class, half listening to Mr. Kowalski explain World War II tactics, when the alarm rang. Like every other student, she was supposed to file out calmly and wait in the designated assembly area. Instead, Maya's combat instincts kicked in immediately. The sound triggered muscle memory from dozens of real emergencies aboard military vessels. She was out of her seat and moving toward the emergency exit before the other students had even processed what was happening. Whoa, Maya, called Tommy Richardson from behind her. Chill out, it's just a drill. Maya forced herself to slow down, falling back into the slow-moving line of students who were treating the alarm as an excuse to chat and joke around. But her eyes continued scanning for actual threats, noting exit routes and defensive positions out of habit. Outside in the assembly area, Maya watched the school security guard. Mr. Webb take attendance with painful slowness. In a real emergency, this many people standing clustered together in an open area would be an ideal target. Maya found herself automatically identifying cover positions and calculating how long it would take to evacuate the area if something actually went wrong. You okay? Jessica asked, noticing Maya's constant movement and alert posture. You look like you're expecting something bad to happen. Just want to make sure everyone's safe, Maya replied, trying to relax her shoulders and look more like a normal teenager. The drill ended without incident. But Maya's heightened awareness didn't fade. She realized that 3 years of military training had fundamentally changed how she processed the world around her. Every room she entered was automatically assessed for threats and tactical advantages. Every person she met was unconsciously categorized as potential ally, neutral, or threat. That afternoon in gym class, the situation got worse. Coach Martinez had divided the class into teams for a game of capture the flag, a harmless activity that should have been fun and competitive. For Maya, it became something else entirely. The moment the game started, her mind shifted into combat mode. She analyzed terrain, identified key strategic points, and began coordinating her team's movements with the efficiency of someone who had planned actual military operations. Within minutes, she had effectively taken command of her team, directing them with hand signals and tactical positioning that went far beyond what was needed for a high school gym game. "Maya, what are you doing?" asked her teammate Sarah, looking confused as Maya gestured for her to take a flanking position. "Just trying to win," Maya said, but she could hear the command authority in her own voice, the tone she had used when giving orders to pilots twice her age. Her team won decisively, but Maya realized she had revealed too much. She caught Coach Martinez watching her with a puzzled expression, and several classmates were staring at her with confusion. "Damn, Chen," said Marcus Webb after the game. "You go to some kind of military camp or something?" "That was intense," Maya forced a laugh. "I just like to win," but she knew she had crossed a line. Normal teenagers didn't think in terms of tactical superiority and coordinated assault strategies during gym class. Games. The breaking point came that weekend during a party at Derek's house while his parents were out of town. Maya had agreed to go, hoping to prove to herself that she could fit in with normal teenage social activities. The party was typical high school fare: loud music, cheap beer smuggled in by someone's older brother, and the kind of drama that seemed incredibly important to 17-year-olds. Maya found herself standing in the corner, observing rather than participating when trouble started. 3 college-age guys showed up uninvited, clearly looking for easy targets among the younger students. They were drunk, aggressive, and started pushing around some of the smaller boys while making inappropriate comments to the girls. Maya watched the situation develop with the detached assessment of someone trained to evaluate threats. The adults weren't just drunk, they were looking for violence. The high school boys were too intimidated to effectively respond, and some of the girls were getting genuinely scared. When one of the college guys grabbed Jessica's arm and wouldn't let go despite her protests, Maya's military training took over completely. She moved across the room with deadly efficiency, grabbing the guy's wrist and applying pressure to a nerve cluster that made him release Jessica immediately, while causing enough pain to get his full attention. "She said no," Maya said quietly, her voice carrying the absolute authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. The guy was bigger than Maya, probably outweighed her by 60 pounds, but something in her posture and tone made him step back instinctively. "What's your problem, little girl?" he said, trying to regain his confidence. Maya evaluated him like she would evaluate an enemy combatant. His stance, his level of intoxication, his probable responses to different types of pressure. It would be easy to disable him completely. A strike to the solar plexus, knee to the groin, elbow to the temple. He would be unconscious before he knew what happened. Instead, she stepped closer, meeting his eyes with the stare of someone who had killed before and would do so again if necessary. "My problem is that you're threatening my friends," she said calmly. "I think you should leave now." Something in Maya's eyes must have communicated the seriousness of her intent, because the college guy suddenly looked uncertain. His friends moved closer, sensing trouble, but Maya had already calculated how to handle multiple opponents in the confined space of Derek's living room. "Come on, man," one of his friends said nervously. "Let's just go." After they left, the party continued, but Maya realized everyone was looking at her differently. Jessica was grateful but confused. Derek kept staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Even the other girls seemed uncertain about how to react. "Where did you learn to do that?" Jessica asked quietly. Maya looked around the room at her classmates, kids who had never faced real violence, never been responsible for anyone's safety but their own, never had to make life or death decisions under pressure. "Self-defense classes," she lied. But she knew that explanation wouldn't hold up under scrutiny. Normal self-defense classes didn't teach the kind of controlled lethality Maya had displayed. Normal teenagers didn't evaluate threats with the cold efficiency of trained soldiers. Walking home from the party, Maya realized that her attempt to blend back into civilian life was failing. The gulf between her experiences and those of her peers was too wide to bridge with simple pretense. She had changed in ways that couldn't be hidden indefinitely. The question now was what she would do about it. Word spread quickly through Jefferson High about Maya's confrontation at Derek's party. By Monday morning, she had gained a reputation that she neither wanted nor could easily shake. Students whispered in hallways, and she caught people staring at her during classes. Some looked at her with newfound respect, others with wariness, and a few with outright suspicion. "Maya, that was amazing what you did Saturday night," said Kelly Morrison, approaching her locker between classes. "I've never seen anyone stand up to college guys like that." "You were so calm." Maya managed to smile while internally cringing. "Just didn't like seeing Jessica get harassed." "But seriously, where did you learn to handle yourself like that?" "My dad's a cop and he says most people freeze up in confrontations." "You didn't even hesitate." Before Maya could answer, Mr. Webb, the school security guard, appeared beside them. "Miss Chen, could I have a word?" Maya followed him to his small office, noting that he moved with the careful gait of someone who had seen military service. His desk held a coffee mug with Marine Corps insignia, and a photo of him in dress blues from what looked like 20 years ago. "Have a seat," he said, closing the door. "I heard about what happened at the party Saturday." "Want to tell me about it?" Maya chose her words carefully. "Some older guys were bothering students. I asked them to leave." Webb studied her for a long moment. "Kelly Morrison's dad is Detective Morrison with the city police. He called me this morning. Seems one of those college boys filed a complaint about being assaulted by a high school girl. Claims you knew exactly how to hurt him without leaving marks." Maya's stomach dropped. "I just defended my friends." "I'm not saying you did anything wrong," Webb continued. "But Detective Morrison was curious about your background. Says there's something odd about your family's records. Lots of gaps, classified entries. He's seen that pattern before with military families." Webb leaned back in his chair, still studying Maya's face. "I did 3 tours in Afghanistan. Came back different than when I left. Took me years to learn how to be around civilians again without seeing threats everywhere." Maya remained silent, but she could feel Webb reading her like a book. "The thing is," Webb continued, "you move like someone with training. Real training, not just self-defense classes. And that look in your eyes when you're assessing situations, I've seen it in combat veterans. Problem is, you're 17 years old. Mr. Webb, I don't know what you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you that if you've been through something that gave you that kind of training and instincts, you need to be more careful about hiding it, especially now that people are starting to notice." Webb opened his desk drawer and pulled out a business card. "This is a friend of mine, Dr. Sarah Chen. No relation, I assume. She's a counselor who works with veterans transitioning back to civilian life. Sometimes young people need that kind of help too, regardless of how they got their experiences." Maya took the card, understanding the implication. Webb knew, or at least suspected, more than he was saying. "Your secret's safe with me," Webb said quietly, "but you need to learn to blend in better, or someone less understanding is going to start asking harder questions." That afternoon, Maya's careful facade suffered another crack during chemistry class. Dr. Henderson was demonstrating a reaction involving superheated plasma when his equipment malfunctioned. The containment field flickered and the plasma stream began to destabilize. While other students backed away nervously, Maya immediately moved forward, her hands reaching for the emergency controls with practiced efficiency. She stabilized the containment field and shut down the reaction before Dr. Henderson had even finished shouting for everyone to evacuate. The classroom fell silent. Maya realized she had just demonstrated knowledge of plasma containment technology that shouldn't exist in a high school chemistry lab, much less in the mind of a teenage student. "Miss Chen," Dr. Henderson said slowly, "how did you know how to operate those controls?" Maya's mind raced. The containment system was based on technology derived from Zephyrian equipment captured during the war. She had operated similar systems on military vessels, but that knowledge was classified far above Dr. Henderson's clearance level. "Lucky guess?" she offered weakly. Dr. Henderson's expression suggested he wasn't buying it. That was extremely advanced equipment. I've been teaching chemistry for 15 years and I barely understand how it works. You operated it like you'd used it before. After class, Maya found herself called to the principal's office. Principal Morrison, Detective Morrison's wife, she realized, was waiting with a concerned expression. Maya, we need to talk. I've been getting some unusual reports about you lately. Your teachers say you're performing far above grade level. You handled a confrontation at a party with unusual skill. And now Dr. Henderson says you operated equipment that requires specialized training. Maya sat in the chair across from Principal Morrison's desk, feeling like she was being interrogated. We're worried about you, Principal Morrison continued. Your academic records show gaps during your family's moves, and frankly, some of your knowledge and abilities seem inconsistent with typical teenage experiences. I've always been a good student, Maya said. This goes beyond being a good student. Dr. Henderson consulted with colleagues at the university. The equipment you operated today is prototype technology. The manufacturer says fewer than 50 people in the country are certified to use it. Maya felt the walls closing in. Every attempt to live normally was revealing more about her background than she could afford to expose. Maya, if you're in some kind of trouble, or if your family is involved in something dangerous, we want to help. But we need you to be honest with us. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed with an emergency message. Her father's text was brief. School, now, emergency. Maya looked up to find her father standing in the principal's office doorway, his face grim. Behind him stood a woman in a dark suit who had the unmistakable bearing of federal authority. Mr. Chen, Principal Morrison said, standing, we were just discussing Maya's unusual academic performance and some concerning incidents. I'm afraid Maya won't be returning to Jefferson High, Maya's father said formally. There's been a change in our family situation that requires immediate attention. The woman in the suit stepped forward. I'm Agent Martinez with the Department of Education's Special Programs Division. Maya has been selected for an accelerated academic program that better suits her unique educational background. Maya understood immediately. Her cover was blown and extraction was necessary. The Special Programs Division was undoubtedly a front for military intelligence. As they left the school, Maya caught sight of Jessica and Derek watching from the hallway windows, their faces confused and worried. She realized she would never see them again, never have the chance to explain or say goodbye properly. In the car, Agent Martinez turned to Maya. We need to discuss your future. Miss Chen, your attempt at civilian reintegration has been noted and appreciated, but it's clear that your skill set is too specialized for normal teenage life. Maya stared out the window at Jefferson High School growing smaller in the distance. Her experiment in normalcy was over before it had really begun. The facility Agent Martinez brought Maya to looked like a prestigious boarding school from the outside. Red brick buildings, manicured lawns, and students walking between classes with backpacks and textbooks. Only Maya's trained eye caught the subtle security measures. Cameras disguised as decorative fixtures, guards dressed as groundskeepers, and the almost imperceptible hum of electronic surveillance equipment. Welcome to the Highland Institute, Agent Martinez said as they walked through the main entrance. Officially, we're a school for gifted students with unique educational needs. Unofficially, we help young people with specialized backgrounds transition back into society. Maya immediately understood. This was where they put the other teenage veterans, kids like her who had served in the classified war and couldn't simply return to normal high schools. The first person Maya met was David Kim, a 19-year-old who looked like he belonged in college, but moved with the careful precision of someone trained in combat operations. He was reading a physics textbook in the common area when Agent Martinez introduced them. David was a communications specialist during the final year of the conflict, Agent Martinez explained. He's been here 6 months working on his college preparatory studies. After Agent Martinez left, David closed his book and studied Maya with knowing eyes. Let me guess. Squadron leader, probably fighters or reconnaissance? How did you know? Command posture. You scan rooms like you're responsible for everyone's safety. Plus, you're younger than most of us, which means you were promoted fast. That usually means combat effectiveness. David showed Maya around the facility. There were 37 students total, all between 16 and 20 years old, all carrying the invisible weight of experiences their civilian peers couldn't comprehend. They attended advanced classes during the day and group therapy sessions in the evening. The goal is to get us ready for normal life, David explained as they walked past a classroom where students were working on quantum mechanics problems. College, careers, relationships with people who don't know that we've seen things that would give them nightmares. Maya met others throughout the week. Sarah Martinez, no relation to the agent, had been an engineer responsible for maintaining life support systems on deep space stations. At 18, she could design atmospheric processors that kept entire colonies alive, but she struggled with basic social interactions. Tommy Richardson had been a medic attached to ground forces during the few planetary conflicts. He had saved hundreds of lives using advanced alien medical technology, but couldn't explain his knowledge without revealing classified information. Lisa Chen, also no relation to Maya, had been part of a psychological warfare unit, using captured Zephyrian technology to disrupt enemy communications. She was brilliant at strategic thinking but had trouble trusting anyone who hadn't been through combat. The hardest part, David told Maya during their first week together, is learning to care about civilian problems again. When your biggest worry for 3 years was whether humanity would survive the next battle, it's hard to get excited about things like pop quizzes and dating drama. Maya understood completely. She found herself going through the motions of normal teenage behavior, while feeling disconnected from everything around her. The Highland Institute was better than regular high school because at least her classmates understood why she sometimes woke up screaming from nightmares, or why sudden loud noises made her reach for weapons that weren't there. But it still felt like pretending. The breakthrough came during a group therapy session led by Dr. Chen, the counselor Mr. Webb had recommended. Maya had been attending for 2 weeks without saying much, listening to other students discuss their struggles with reintegration. "Maya, you've been quiet during our sessions," Dr. Chen observed. "How are you adjusting to life here?" "It's better than regular high school," Maya answered carefully. "But..." Maya looked around the circle at faces that reflected her own experiences, young people who had grown up too fast and seen too much. For the first time since the war ended, she was surrounded by people who might actually understand. "I miss it," she said quietly. "I know that's wrong, but I miss the clarity. In combat, everything made sense. Protect your squadron, complete the mission, keep humanity safe. The decisions were hard, but the purpose was clear. And now?" Dr. Chen prompted. "Now I'm supposed to care about college applications and career planning. I'm supposed to worry about normal things, build a normal life. But nothing feels important anymore. Nothing feels like it matters the way the war mattered." David nodded. "I know exactly what you mean. I used to coordinate communications for 3-star systems. Now I'm supposed to be excited about choosing a college major. It's not just that," Maya continued, the words coming faster now. "It's that everyone expects us to be grateful for the chance at normal life. But we didn't choose to be normal. We chose to fight. We were good at it. And now we're supposed to pretend that was just a phase we went through." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "You don't have to pretend anything here, Maya. But you do need to decide what kind of life you want to build now that the war is over." That night, Maya received another encrypted message from Santos. This time, he wasn't alone. Through her secure connection, she found herself in a video conference with 8 former squadron members, all now part of what Santos called consulting operations. The war might be officially over, Santos explained, but Earth Defense Command is planning for the next conflict. They need experienced personnel for training new recruits, developing new tactics, analyzing captured Zephyrian technology. Maya's former wingman Jennifer Torres spoke up. "It's not the same as active combat, but it's real work. Important work. Using what we learned to make sure humanity is ready for whatever comes next. The offer stands," Santos concluded. "You turn 18 in 6 months. After that, you can make your own choices about your future." After the call ended, Maya sat in her dorm room at the Highland Institute, looking out at the carefully manicured grounds that were designed to feel safe and normal. She thought about her classmates here, all struggling with the same question. How do you build a meaningful civilian life when you've already had the most meaningful experience of your generation? Some of her Highland classmates were successfully transitioning. David had been accepted to MIT's engineering program. Sarah was planning to study atmospheric science at Caltech. Tommy wanted to become a doctor, using his medical knowledge in ways that wouldn't raise questions about its origins. But Maya was beginning to realize that her path might be different. She had been a natural leader in combat, someone who made split-second decisions that saved lives and won battles. That person didn't just disappear because the war was over. The question was whether she had the courage to admit that normal life might never be enough for her, and what she was willing to sacrifice to find a different kind of purpose. 6 months at the Highland Institute had given Maya time to think, but clarity remained elusive. She excelled in her advanced coursework, completed her high school requirements early, and participated in therapy sessions that helped her process the psychological impact of her war experiences. Yet the fundamental question of what to do with her life remained unanswered. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning in March when Agent Martinez arrived with urgent news. She found Maya in the library, working on a research paper about post-conflict reconstruction strategies. "Maya, we need to talk privately," Agent Martinez said, her expression more serious than usual. They walked to a secure conference room that Maya had never seen before, deep in the administrative wing of the facility. Inside, a large screen displayed a star map marked with red warning indicators. 3 days ago, long-range sensors detected unusual activity in the Outer Rim territories, Agent Martinez began. "Ships of unknown design, using technology that doesn't match anything in our databases." Maya studied the display, her military training automatically analyzing the tactical implications. "Not Zephyrian?" "Definitely not. The energy signatures are completely different. We're calling them the hegemony, based on intercepted communications. They appear to be a coalition of species we've never encountered before." The implications hit Maya immediately. The war everyone thought was over might have just been the opening act. "Earth Defense Command is implementing emergency protocols," Agent Martinez continued. "All experienced personnel are being recalled to active duty. That includes Highland Institute graduates who choose to volunteer." Maya felt a familiar surge of adrenaline, the same feeling she had experienced when receiving combat missions. "What do you need from me?" "Your squadron, or what's left of it, has been selected for a reconnaissance mission. The goal is to gather intelligence on these new hostiles before they advance further into human space. It's dangerous work, probably more dangerous than anything you faced during the Zephyrian conflict." Maya thought about her classmates at Highland Institute, finally building normal lives. David had just received his acceptance to MIT. Sarah was planning a summer internship with NASA. Tommy had started dating a girl from the local town, someone who knew nothing about his military background. What happens to the others if I volunteer? They continue with their civilian transition plans unless they choose otherwise. This is strictly voluntary, Maya. No one will pressure you to return to military service. But even as Agent Martinez said it, Maya knew the choice was already made. While her classmates had found ways to channel their skills into civilian pursuits, Maya had never stopped being a military officer. The prospect of new threats to humanity activated every instinct she had developed during the war. "When do I ship out?" "Tomorrow, if you accept." "There's a transport leaving for Earth Defense Command headquarters in Colorado. You'll be reunited with your surviving squadron members for briefing and mission planning." That evening, Maya broke the news to her Highland Institute friends. Their reactions were mixed. David looked concerned, Sarah seemed envious, and Tommy just nodded with understanding. "I knew you'd go back eventually," David said as they sat in the common room after dinner. "You never really left the military mindset. Is that bad?" "Not bad," David replied. "Just different. Some of us need to build something new. You need to keep protecting what we've already built." Maya's parents arrived that night for what might be their final conversation before she returned to active duty. The meeting was painful but not surprising. They had known this moment would come when their daughter chose military service at 14. "We're proud of you," her mother said, though tears ran down her cheeks. "But we're also terrified. You've already given so much." "This is who I am, Mom. The war didn't make me into someone else. It revealed who I was meant to be." Her father nodded slowly. "Your mother and I have been civilians pretending to be military spouses. But you've been military from the beginning, haven't you?" Maya thought about the question seriously. "I think so. Even as a kid, I was always the one organizing games, making sure everyone was safe, planning strategies. The war just gave me a place where those instincts mattered." The next morning, Maya stood at the entrance to Highland Institute with a single duffel bag containing her few possessions. Her classmates gathered to see her off, understanding that she was crossing back into a world they had chosen to leave behind. Stay alive out there, David said, embracing her. Make it count, added Sarah. Agent Martinez escorted Maya to the transport, a sleek military vehicle that would take her back to the world of classified operations and strategic planning. As they drove away from Highland Institute, Maya felt the familiar transformation beginning, the shift from civilian mindset back to military efficiency. Any regrets? Agent Martinez asked. Maya considered the question as she watched the peaceful countryside roll past. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of human space, new threats were gathering. The skills she had developed during the Zephyrian War, the leadership experience she had gained commanding other teenagers in life-or-death situations, the tactical instincts that had kept her alive through dozens of combat missions, all of it was about to be tested again. No regrets, Maya said finally. This is what I'm meant to do. At Earth Defense Command headquarters, Maya was reunited with Santos Torres and 3 other surviving members of her original squadron. They looked older, more weathered by their brief attempts at civilian life, but the core competence that had made them effective during the war remained intact. Good to have you back. Commander, Santos said, using Maya's old rank. Ready to save humanity again? Maya looked around at her reassembled team, felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders, and smiled for the first time in months. Let's go see what these new aliens think they can do to our neighborhood. The war might be starting again, but this time Maya wasn't a child learning to be a soldier. She was an experienced commander returning to the work she had always been meant to do. 3 weeks later, Maya stood on the bridge of the reconnaissance vessel, Defiance, watching unknown stars through the viewport as her squadron prepared for humanity's first encounter with the hegemony. The ship was more advanced than anything she had commanded during the Zephyrian War, incorporating captured alien technology and lessons learned from years of interstellar conflict. Her crew was a mix of Highland Institute graduates and newly trained recruits, young humans who represented the next generation of Earth's defenders. Maya had spent the past weeks training them, sharing hard-won knowledge about combat in space and the psychological challenges of fighting alien enemies. Commander, we're approaching the coordinates where the hegemony ships were last detected, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, the sister of David from Highland Institute. Like her brother, she had chosen military service over civilian life, but as a systems analyst rather than a combat pilot. Maya nodded, feeling the familiar calm that settled over her during combat operations. All stations prepare for contact. Remember, we're here to observe and gather intelligence, not to engage unless absolutely necessary. Through the bridge speakers, Maya could hear the quiet efficiency of her crew preparing for potential combat. These young humans moved with the same deadly competence that had characterized her generation during the Zephyrian War, but with additional advantages. They had been trained from the beginning with knowledge of alien technologies and tactics. They understood from day one that humanity was not alone in the universe. Contact, announced Torres from the sensor station. Multiple ships, configuration unknown. They're big, Commander. Much larger than Zephyrian vessels. The main screen displayed the hegemony fleet, a dozen massive vessels that dwarfed anything in Earth's navy. Their design was sleek and predatory, with weapon systems that pulsed with an energy Maya didn't recognize. They've detected us, Kim reported. Incoming transmission. On screen. The face that appeared was clearly alien but disturbingly familiar in its intelligence and calculation. The being had features that seemed to combine characteristics from multiple species. The result, Maya realized of the coalition nature of the hegemony. Human vessel, the alien said in perfect English. You are trespassing in territory claimed by the hegemony. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. Maya stepped forward, drawing on years of experience in interspecies diplomacy and combat psychology. This is Commander Maya Chen of the Earth Defense Force. This region of space contains no inhabited systems and has never been claimed by any recognized authority. The alien's expression shifted into something that might have been amusement. Recognized by whom? Your species has been making territorial claims for less than a decade. The hegemony has been expanding across this galaxy for millennia. Then you should understand the concept of sovereignty, Maya replied calmly. Earth claims no territory beyond our defensive perimeter, but we will defend our colonies and shipping lanes. Your colonies exist at our sufferance, human. The Zephyrians were merely the first test of your species' worthiness. You passed that examination, but barely. The hegemony represents a more comprehensive evaluation. Maya felt her crew's tension increasing, but she maintained her diplomatic composure even as her mind raced through tactical possibilities. The hegemony ships were positioned in a classic intimidation formation, designed to demonstrate overwhelming superiority while leaving room for withdrawal. What kind of evaluation? She asked. Surrender your military technology, restrict your expansion to your home system, and accept hegemony oversight of your species' development. In exchange, we will allow your civilization to continue existing. The ultimatum was delivered with casual certainty, as if the alien expected immediate compliance. Maya understood that this moment would define humanity's future relationship with the wider galaxy. Counterproposal, Maya said. The hegemony withdraws from human space, respects our territorial boundaries, and establishes formal diplomatic relations. In exchange, we don't demonstrate why the Zephyrians lost their war against a species of barely civilized primates. The alien's expression hardened. You are in no position to make demands, human. Actually, I think we are. Maya gestured to Torres, who activated the Defiance's tactical systems. Immediately, the hegemony fleet found itself targeted by weapons they couldn't detect. Maya's ship was equipped with hybrid human-Zephyrian technology that represented the cutting edge of Earth's military development. More importantly, Maya's crew had been trained specifically to exploit weaknesses in alien ship designs. Your vessels are impressive, Maya continued conversationally, but they're designed for intimidation rather than maneuverability. Large ships, powerful weapons, but slow to respond to rapid tactical changes. The Zephyrians made the same mistake. You would risk starting a war with one small ship? Maya smiled, the expression of someone who had commanded successful operations against impossible odds. Who says it's just one ship? At her signal, a dozen more Earth Defense Force vessels decloaked around the hegemony fleet. Maya's reconnaissance mission had been cover for a larger strategic operation. Earth was no longer the reactive defender it had been during the Zephyrian conflict. The first rule of military strategy, Maya explained to the alien commander, is never underestimate your opponent's intelligence. Humans are very good at learning from our mistakes. The hegemony commander studied the tactical display, clearly reassessing the situation. Maya could see the moment when the alien realized that humanity had evolved beyond the species the hegemony had initially evaluated. This is not over, human. No, it isn't, Maya agreed, but it's going to proceed according to our terms, not yours. Withdraw your ships from human space. Establish formal communications through diplomatic channels, and understand that any aggression against human colonies will be met with the full force of our military. After the hegemony ships withdrew, Maya remained on the bridge staring out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so empty or hostile. Her communication panel chimed with an incoming message from Earth Defense Command. Outstanding work, Commander Chen, came the voice of Admiral Harrison, her former commanding officer. Your tactical analysis was perfect. The hegemony's withdrawal from our border regions suggests they'll be more amenable to negotiation. Maya nodded, but her attention was focused on something else. Around her, the bridge crew was celebrating their successful mission with the quiet satisfaction of professionals who had done their job well. These young humans, some still teenagers, had just faced down an alien fleet and emerged victorious through skill, courage, and superior tactics. They represented something new in the galaxy, a species that had learned to fight and win against alien threats while retaining their essential humanity. They were no longer the desperate defenders of the Zephyrian War, but confident protectors of human space. Commander, Santos said, approaching her station, orders from Earth Command. We're being assigned to the new Diplomatic Protection Force. Apparently, the politicians want military escorts for the peace negotiations. Maya considered the assignment. More aliens to assess, more threats to evaluate, more decisions that would shape humanity's future among the stars. It was exactly the kind of responsibility she had been trained for, had chosen, and had never really wanted to abandon. But this time was different. This time Maya wasn't a child soldier learning to fight for humanity's survival. She was an experienced commander leading the next generation of Earth's defenders into a galaxy that was learning to respect human capabilities. Acknowledged, Maya replied. Set course for Earth. Time to show the hegemony how humans negotiate. As the Defiance turned toward home, Maya reflected on the path that had brought her here. The girl who had struggled to fit into high school had found her true calling among the stars, leading humanity's expansion into a universe full of challenges and opportunities. She had survived the war, survived the attempt at normal life, and emerged as something new, a human being perfectly adapted to the realities of interstellar civilization. The galaxy was vast and full of potential threats, but Maya was no longer worried about humanity's ability to meet those challenges. After all, they had already proven that humans were very good at exceeding expectations.